Hello. It's Steph here again, recording from my home in the Hill of Ruch to bring you another village story. All of a sudden it's Easter this weekend. Don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I would love it when my gran would hard boil me some eggs so that I could paint them. I'd paint a princess, a ginger cat, and always Wonder Woman because she was my all-time favourite. And then I'd nag the face off of whoever was in my house that hadn't fallen asleep after Sunday dinner to take me along to the big hill so that we could roll them down. A generation later, when my son was still a boy, we draw Mario characters on our eggs with felt tip pens, and then rather than roll them down the hill, we'd just launch them almost like the shot put. And then we'd laugh fiendishly as we watched their wee heads smash on the pavement. My mum used to say to us, "Now what harm did those eggs ever do to you?" But my story today isn't about rolling the eggs down the hill. It's about an oat cake, running down one. This is a retelling of the Fleeing Pancake, which was first retold by Elizabeth Grierson way back in 1910. So put your feet up with a cup of tea. This is a story for grown-ups. No, it's not adult content, but it's just time for you to take some time for yourself, to close the door, just tune out. And don't tell me you're too old for fairy tales, because nobody is. This is the story of the Wee Oatmeal Cake. So there was an old man and his wife, and they lived in a bonny wee cottage by the side of a small stream. Honeysuckle blossomed on a trellis by the front door. Honey bees danced in and out of the blossoms. They were a very cheerful and contented couple. They had enough to live on and enough to do. In fact, they considered themselves quite rich, because besides their cottage and their garden, they had 2 healthy cows, 5 hens and a cock, an old cat, and 2 fluffy kittens. The old man spent his time looking after the cows and the hens, and the old woman, she kept herself busy in the garden and keeping their home just the way she liked it. One day the old woman thought she would like an oatmeal cake for supper that evening, so she took down her baking bowl and fastened her apron round her middle and baked a couple of very fine cakes. When they were ready, she put them down beside the fire to harden. As they toasted, her husband came in and plonked himself down in his armchair. His eyes fell on the cakes, so golden and crisp on the outside. They looked good. He grabbed one and broke it through the middle and began to eat it. But when the other cake saw this, it was overcome with fear, and it determined it would not have the same fate. So the wee cake ran across the kitchen and out the door as fast as it could. And well, when the woman saw it disappearing down the garden path, she ran after it as fast as her legs would carry her, holding her trowel in one hand and her packet of hydrangea seeds in the other. But she was old, and the cake was young, and it ran faster than she did, and it escaped over the hill behind the house, and it kept running and running and running and running and running and running until it came across another cottage, and the door was open, so the wee cake ran inside to take some refuge and ran right across the floor towards the blazing fire. In that cottage lived 2 old sisters, Betty, the oldest, who was sweeping the floor, and Tibby, the younger sister, who was knitting. "What was that, Tibby?" asked Betty, as the wee cake just flew right past her broom. "Oh, it's a wee cake," cried Tibby. "I wonder where it came from." "Don't bother your head about that," said Betty. "Just grip it, woman, grip it." But it wasn't so easy to get hold of that wee cake. Tibby threw her ball of wool at it, and Betty tried to sweep it into a corner and kind of knock it down, but the wee cake dodged her broom and turned round, and it was able to fly right back out the door again and vanish down the hill. "For all the world like a startled sheep," the old sisters said. Halfway down the hillside, the wee cake reached the smithy, and it popped in there. Well, really just to see what it could see. The smith was busy at the anvil making horseshoe nails, but he spotted the wee cake as soon as it came in. "It's surely a sign of plenty when there are cakes running about with no one to look after them," he said. "And if there's one thing I am fond of, it is a glass of ale and a well-toasted cake. So come on in here, you. Come on." But the wee cake turned and ran out of the smithy as fast as it could, and the smith, well, he was so disappointed he picked up his hammer and ran after it. But he'd no way of catching it, so he took his great heavy hammer and flung it at the wee cake in the hope of knocking it down. But luckily for the cake, he missed his aim. After this, the cake kept running down the hill until it came to another house. And the folk were just about to go to bed. The good man of the house was standing there in his long johns, and his wife was raking out the ashes out of the fire. And the wee cake sped right past him into the house. And the man said, "Well, you know, wife, that bowl of soup that I had for my supper really wasn't that filling." "Well, catch it then," said his wife, "and I'll have a bit of it too. Quick, hurry up, throw your coat over it before it's away." So the good man took his coat and threw it right on top of the cake. Kind of almost managed to smother it, but that wee cake was a fighter, and it struggled and managed to get out. Oh, a wee bit breathless. And then it just kept running and running right out into the grey light because the night was beginning to fall. And the good man of the house ran out after it without his coat, and he chased it right across a field till they came to a patch of long grass, and that's where he lost it. And he was feeling cold standing there, just in his long johns, without his coat, so he just went back home. And as for the cake, well, it thought it would creep under a bush and lie there until the morning. But it was so dark, the cake didn't see that there was a fox's hole there, and it fell down the fox's hole. And the fox was very glad to see the wee cake because, well, he hadn't eaten in 2 long days. "Oh, welcome, wee cake," said the fox, and he snapped it right down the middle with his teeth. And that is the end of that. I hope you liked that funny wee story. It really made me smile. Now, whatever you do this weekend, whether it's going back to your childhood and painting some eggs, or just eating some chocolate ones, I hope you take some time to relax. And we'll be back again soon with another story from the Village Storytelling Centre. Bye.